You know when you're doing an exam question and you're sure you got it right, but you don't get full marks? Well, today, we're going to figure out why. We are going right inside the AQA GCSE Biology mark scheme to pull apart a whole question on respiration and see exactly how to turn a good answer into a perfect one.
Okay, so here's our game plan. We're going to walk through question 04 piece by piece. We'll kick things off with the absolute must-know facts. Then we'll jump into comparing aerobic and anaerobic respiration. After that, we'll tackle a pretty tricky experiment. And we'll wrap it all up by figuring out the key lessons for acing your exams.
All right, first things first. Our goal here is pretty straightforward. We're going to put on our examiner hats. We're going to tear apart every part of question 04 and see precisely what the official AQA mark scheme is looking for to give you every single mark.
Okay, let's get into it. We're starting with the basics, right? The fundamental questions. Think of these as the warm-up, the easy points you can bag right away if you really know your stuff.
And here it is, question 04.1. A total classic. You've probably seen this a million times. They give you 4 options, and you just have to pick out the right balanced chemical equation for aerobic respiration. Sounds simple, right?
And boom, there's the answer, straight from the mark scheme. The key here, and don't forget this, is that it has to be balanced. So it's 6 molecules of oxygen plus 1 molecule of glucose, giving you 6 molecules of water and 6 molecules of carbon dioxide. You've got to have those 6s in all the right places.
All right, next step. Question 04.2. This one's a quick, easy 1-marker. They just want to know where in the cell do most of these reactions for aerobic respiration actually happen.
The answer? Just one word, mitochondria. And hey, the mark scheme is nice enough to say that the singular, mitochondrion, is okay too. This is one of those non-negotiable facts. You know, it's that direct link between the part of the cell and what it actually does.
Okay, so we've got all this energy. But so what? Why do we even need it? That's what question 4.3 is all about. For 2 marks, they want 2 specific reasons what is all this energy actually used for.
So, the mark scheme actually gives you 4 options here, which is pretty generous. You only need to pick 2. But look closely. See how they add muscle contraction next to movement? That's a huge clue. Being specific gets you the points. It's not just about building stuff, it's about building larger molecules. Those details really matter.
All right, moving on. Now we're getting to a classic exam favorite, aerobic versus anaerobic respiration. This is an area where a lot of people can get tripped up, so let's really break down what the mark scheme is looking for here.
So, question 04.4 asks you to describe 2 differences. Easy enough, right? But wait, there's a catch, a big one. Do not refer to oxygen in your answer. Whoa! So you can't state the most obvious difference. They're forcing you to dig a little deeper.
And here are your options, straight from the mark scheme's playbook. You've got a few ways to get those 2 marks. You could talk about the different products, like lactic acid. You could talk about where it happens in the cell, or you could talk about the difference and how much energy you get out. Plenty of choices.
Okay, now this is why we're doing this. Look at that note from the examiner. The wording is everything. You have to say it releases less energy. If you write produces, makes, or creates, you get no mark. It's a tiny difference in a single word, but it's the difference between getting the point and getting nothing. That is super important.
Okay, time to switch gears. We're leaving humans behind for a minute and talking about plants and yeast. Question 04.5 wants to know the 2 products when they do anaerobic respiration. You might also know this process as fermentation. And the 2 answers they're looking for? Carbon dioxide and ethanol. That's it. For this question, it was just about ticking the right 2 boxes. 2 easy marks if you know it.
All right, brace yourselves. We're moving into the application section. This is where they stop asking what you know and start asking if you can use what you know. We're talking about interpreting data from an experiment. This is where they really test your understanding.
So let's get our bearings here. What are we looking at? On the left, you've got the experiment set up, a sealed tube, some pondweed, a snail, and a little probe measuring the CO2. On the right is the result, a graph that shows what happened to that CO2 level over 15 days. Okay, look at the graph with me. See that first part, from day 0 to day 5? The line is totally flat, nothing's changing. So the 2-mark question is, why? What's going on biologically to keep things so perfectly balanced?
And the answer is all about balance. Think of it like a seesaw. On one side, the pondweed is sucking up CO2 for photosynthesis. On the other side, both the plant and the snail are breathing out CO2 from respiration. For the first 5 days, those two things are happening at the exact same speed. The key phrase the mark scheme wants is the rates are equal.
Okay, then something changes. On day 5, they cover the whole tube in black paper. And look at the graph. The CO2 level starts climbing steadily. So what's the deal? Why does blocking out the light cause this to happen?
It's a simple chain of events, really. Black paper means no light. No light means no photosynthesis. But, and this is the crucial part, the snail and the plant don't stop respiring. They're still breathing out CO2. So now you've got CO2 going in, but none being taken out. Of course, the level is going to rise.
And just when you think you've got it figured out, there's a twist. On day 10, the pond snail dies. Look at the graph again. See how after day 10 the line gets even steeper? The CO2 is rising faster than ever. So for a big 3 marks, you have to explain, why does the snail dying make things worse?
This is a 3-point answer, and you need all 3 links in the chain. Step 1, the dead snail starts to decompose or break down. Step 2, you have to say what's doing the decomposing. We're talking about decomposers, bacteria, fungi. And step 3, the clincher. Those decomposers are alive and they respire. So now you have an entire army of microbes breathing out even more CO2. That's why the slope gets so steep.
Okay, let's zoom out for a second. What have we really learned here? I mean, beyond just this one question. How can we use the mark scheme as like a secret weapon for any exam?
So here's the bottom line. A mark scheme is so much more than just an answer key. It's your study guide. It literally tells you what examiners are trained to look for. It shows you the exact keywords they want to see, the tiny wording details like releases versus produces, and how to build those logical arguments for the big mark questions. And that's our deep dive into question 04. Hopefully getting inside an examiner's head like this helps you see these questions in a totally new way, not just as a test, but as a puzzle you actually know how to solve. So the real question, the one I'll leave you with, is right there on the screen. Thanks for watching.